Hello everyone, welcome. I hope you are hearing me because I've been dealing with several things with the cameras and the microphone and everything. And I hope finally my voice and my picture are in sync. So please, if everything is alright, give me the thumbs up so I know that. And I'm not going to stay so big too many times. So let's go to the point. Today, what are we going to see today? Well, many interesting things, many exciting things are happening in the Blender realm. Because we have a new developer in the town, that is Pablo Dobarro. And Pablo Dobarro is developing many great things for the Sculpt Mode in Blender. In fact, it's taking the Sculpt Mode near ZBrush, so it's doing great things. Yeah, Sculpt Brands 3R he is doing a pretty neat job. But today we are not going to speak about sculpting. Why? Because as you saw in the title, we are going to speak about Mantaflow. And Sebas is back. Mantaflow review process has started again, and everything is going well. So we will have some new features in the future. I'm not sure if near future or long distance future, but we will have some new features soon. And well, if the code review goes well, maybe we can have Mantaflow integrated with Blender 2.81. Maybe. It's just a maybe, okay? It's not sure. But maybe we may have this. So, while we don't have Mantaflow integrated in the master, you can go to graphical.org or check the link in the comments. I left a comment below. You can go to graphical.org. You can go to graphical. We are at graphical. And you have here one experimental build for Linux made by Lloyd Almeida. So if you are on Linux, you can build Mantaflow yourself or download this build. Or use the Windows build I did some days ago of Mantaflow. And as you can see, it's more or less up to date. It's in 2.80.51, so it's near the current master state. So it's pretty stable. Now, what do I want to show you today? Well, I'm pretty excited because in the Pablo Dobarro branch, we have one great thing that is a new remesher that is based in OpenVDB. For those of you that don't know OpenVDB, it's one of the most powerful things in Houdini toolset because it works with volumes, so it can do whatever we want. So for example, let me show you a bit. Let me start the branch. Here we have the branch, the Sculpt branch, and you can also download the latest build from Graphical. There is one out there. So, what this means OpenVDB remesher? We have, for example, Monkey. We have a Suzanne. Okay, let me make Suzanne a bit bigger. We have Suzanne, and we are going to use the remesher, the classic remesher. So we go to remesh, and here we have the classic remesher. An awesome result, yeah? Well, we can increase the octree depth, and then we have some problems here because the eyes are totally broken, and as you can see, this is not good. Let's enable wireframe. So as you can see, this is not good. Okay, we can increase this more and we still have some problems, but more or less is getting it. But it's not good at all. We can go to smooth and then we get this. It's a bit better. but too many geometry, it's still no good. And if we go to a lower geometry count, we get those errors. But now in the Sculpt branch, we can change for the time being, because this may turn into a standalone modifier, or in many other possibilities. I'm not sure how will this evolve. This, by the way, is developed by Martin Felke, Scorpion 81, that is the main developer of Blender Fracture Modifier. And he made this in conjunction with Pablo Dobarro. So we can change from smooth to voxel. And boom, we have this. Let me duplicate this so we can compare both. We have this that is smooth. This is the classic remesher, and this is OpenVDB remesher. As you can see, at this low count of polygons of geometry, we already are getting some details that are getting lost here, like the eyes, the bulges of the eyes. Let me, okay, the chat is here, great. So, if we go to the settings are pretty simple. We just have voxel size. We can reduce this voxel size to 0.05, and then we get this detail. We can go to the classic remesher, increase the octave depth, and we get similar result, right? But in this case, we get a proper result here, and we get a ton of errors here. Okay, we can increase a bit more the detail, check the speed. Boom, it's on. And let's increase this to 9. And let's wait. And now it's done. Well, 9 is a bit bigger than this one. Okay. So, as you can see, the OpenVDB result, it's much better than the classic remesher result. Why? Because the classic remesher is a pretty simple implementation of a remesher. It's just a voxelization. If we go to blocks, let's reduce this. And let's duplicate this again. So if we go to blocks, let's show the mess. And we apply here a smooth modifier. We can configure this to 1, factor to 10. And then we have this result that is very similar to this result. Okay, so we can get similar result if we lower this. So in the end, the classic remesher algorithm is pretty simple. It's just a voxelization and a smoothing of that voxelization. If something else is going on under the hood, I don't know, but the result is pretty similar. So we can remove this and we can go here. And yes, we have this new remesher that is pretty fast, but it has some more features. So for example, we can go to adaptivity, and we can increase this adaptivity, and I'm going to do that without showing you the wireframe. We can increase this adaptivity to 0.1, for example, and you can see some errors started to appear. Let's do 0.2, no, 0.05, and let's duplicate this. This is going to be with 0 adaptivity. This is with 0.05. Let's see the wireframe. So as you can see, we have way less geometry with adaptivity than without adaptivity. So this is pretty cool. This will evolve in many other tools probably, and this will be used in the Sculpt Mode probably in the near future. In fact, in the Sculpt branch, you already have like an implementation of this, but more simpler to work with sculpting this. If you go to object data, you go to remesh, and here we have a set of options to trigger a remesh of this geometry. So for example, we can press remesh and we get this. But this is hard coded. I mean, this is applied in the mesh. It's not a modifier and it's not procedural. So this is good because you can have this and you can go to Sculpt Mode and we can go in the Sculpt Mode. We can try to enable the topo. This may crash. Vertex data detected. Okay, it's not crashing. Great. The topo detail size 5, 3. Okay, we can get this, and let's increase the strength. Yeah, well, let's move the mesh. This is not move. Where is my move mesh? Well, snake hook. Okay. That's a snake hook. Okay. And we can go out of the topo. I think this is important. And then we can go here and press again with finer detail. So for example, press remesh, and then we get a completely new remeshed mesh. So it's destructive. Be aware of that, but you get a much better mesh with that. But if we go here and we enable the remesh modifier, we can have the same remeshing. Okay, but just as a modifier. So we can reduce this even more, and we get the same result, but under the hood we still have our old mesh. So it all depends on what you want to do. Let me drink a bit. Okay, let's delete this one. But why is this so important? Because it's not just a remesher. We have still more options. So for example, we have filters. So we can filter the geometry. For example, we can go and we can use erode, and this will erode the geometry. Okay, this that with the monkey, it's like a nonsense. It's pretty useful when you are remeshing fluids. Keep that in mind. And there is different modes and different biases, second or third or whatever. You can try, I don't know what is HJ Wino 5. I don't know what is it. Okay, but there is more. There are more filters, Gaussian, mean. These are OpenVDB filters. And why do you want OpenVDB filters in this mesh? Because, and here it comes, the much better, why this modifier is much better than the standard remesher, the classic remesher. Marietto 2080, I've sent to you an email. Okay, right. I'll read it and answer you. Right? Hi specs 357. So this is the the main feature in this remesher. Allow me to reduce this to 0.05 just for the sake of speed. And I'm going to create, let's disable the geometry. And let's disable adaptivity for the time being. Okay, I'm going to create, I don't know, a cylinder. Okay, I'm going to create a cylinder, and I'm going to put this cylinder here because I don't want you to see the effect just yet. So I'm going here, CSG operands, and I'm going to press the plus button, and here you have, it's like a Boolean. Okay, we have union, difference, and intersect operation. So it's like a Boolean operation. We can press here, we can pick the cylinder, and nothing happens, right? Let me configure in the cylinder one thing. Well, yes, it's happening one thing, but I want this. Okay, here we have the cylinder, here we have our monkey, and check this. I'm going to move the cylinder in the C channel, and here we have the real power of OpenVDB. So this is like a Boolean operation over the remeshing that is happening over the volume of the object. It's not happening at geometry level, it's happening at volume level. This way we can avoid many problems that the booleans can have with complex geometry. So for example, I'm going to create another geometry, like another monkey. Let's delete, no, not delete. Let's put this here. To scale this monkey. And I'm going to put another Suzanne CDX as the eyes of the Suzanne. So for example, union, I pick this one and I create another one, union, I pick this one, and I can hide everything. And it seems it's not there, but you know it's there because the general shape of the eyes. We can do two things. For the time being, this custom voxel size is not correctly working, so we cannot use this feature that will voxelize with more detail the parts that we want. But this is, right now, this is not correctly working, so we are not going to use this. But we can increase the voxel size, 0.01, and we get an error. Okay, 0.02, 0.015, for example. And here you can see Suzanne as the eyes of Suzanne. Great. As you can see, this is very powerful. We can stack many operands. For example, I'm going to put, and this is going to be the last one, I'm going to put a clone nose in Suzanne. So I'm going to add another operand union, and that's it. Okay, and as you can see, the unions are perfectly done. Okay, these Boolean operations gives you a pretty good geometry for Sculpt, for example. Okay, it's pretty great. Now we can enable adaptivity, 0.02, and visually nearly anything has changed, nothing has changed. But if we enable the wireframe, we can see that we have way less geometry than before. In fact, let's check the number of triangles, 2084, 2084. Oh my god, I don't know how to say this number, and I'm silly right now. But okay, we have nearly 250,000 of polygons, so we can disable this, and then we have more than 500,000 of polygons. So as you can see, adaptivity could be a very great help to reduce geometry in an object. So 0.01, for example, 0.03, and still visually nothing has changed. 0.002 or 0.2, and with 0.2 we have some visual changes, but still pretty good because we set this to say the smooth normals. Sorry, smooth normals. 0.1. It's pretty cool. So how are we going to use this with Mantaflow? Well, let's check this. Let's start with another part of Mantaflow. Okay, let's leave this in aside. Let's leave this aside. I'm going to save this scene because Suzanne is pretty cool. Susie clown. We may use this later. And now we come here. This is the Mantaflow branch. This is today's compilation, but it's practically similar to the build that is uploaded to Graphical. And I have here a simulation that we are not going to be able to do this exact simulation because this took around 1.5 hours to simulate, and it's not too complex. It's a simple one. Okay, it's a simple simulation, as you can see, but if you look closely, let's check here. you can see how the water, the fluid, is moving in this direction from here to here. Why is that? This is because we are using fluid guiding in a pretty neat way. I'm going to show you how to do this, and we are going to notice it way more. But because this simulation was taking so long, I decided to leave it as it was, and that's it. And after we do that, that is like the base simulation for the torus that is going out of the water. We can go and we can do this. Let me start again. No, I don't need the school branch. I just need the actual master. Where is the actual master? Okay. I'm going to use, oh my god, I'm going to use another school branch, I think, because I don't have the actual master build. So school, I'm sorry for this, build school. They are practically similar. And I'm going to open a scene that I have here that is clean master. And with this, you can see that it has some problems that I have to solve yet for this workflow. But you can see that we have a very big water surface, and we have a simulation here. Okay, it's a more lower resolution simulation and a smaller one. But you can see that we have the simulation here. This is fused, this is welded with the Ocean modifier. And this is what we are going to achieve. So for example, in this scene, let me remove this. Scorpion 81. Hi Martin. If you are in material or render view, you can also sculpt the base mesh in sculpt mode with the modifier active. Base mesh changes, modifier remeshes it. Oh, this is great. So you mean that I go here, let me reduce this. You mean that I can open Susie Clown, but I imagine that I should have a more detailed Susan. So for example, let's change, let's use the remesh, this remesh 0.02. Okay, 0.02. Now we enable this. We can go, let's enable a matte cap. This matte cap, we can go to sculpt, and we can sculpt. This is a bit slow for me right now. Well, we have a pretty big, let's remesh this 0.5. Of course, and I have in the modifier, I have a pretty big resolution. 0.3 could be okay. No, 0.2, 0.15, and let's remove adaptivity so it goes faster. And we can go to Sculpt Mode, and it's remeshing it. If we enable this one, I imagine. No, I can't see the base mesh changes. Material or render view. So we go here. Or render view. I don't see the remeshing being done. Ah, yeah, okay, it's being done. It's just I'm showing the wireframe. But I imagine I can do whatever I want. And the remeshing is happening in real time. Because I see the other Susans here. It's pretty cool. Right now it's a bit slow, I don't know why. Yeah, I know. I was in solid mode, sorry. Right now it's a bit slow, maybe because I have, this is a big mess. We'll test this. So let's go to Mantaflow again. And we have this scene, and we are going to reuse this scene. And let's save this with another name. Guide live. Let's change, let's delete free mess, free guiding. Let's disable the mess, the guiding, and the data. Okay, so here we are. For starters, we have just a domain or standard domain. You can show the wireframe. Okay, or a standard domain. No, this is one. And we have just another cube that is going to act as our fluid. We are going to generate the fluid with this cube. This is just the geometry. I can go over on how to use this if you want. We go to effects, we enable fluid, and then we define, okay, I know there's going to be people asking me to do it from the start, so let's do it from the start. Remember to always apply the scale. You don't have anything, you cannot have anything with the scale other than 1:1:1. This is pretty important for physics simulation. So let's go to put, this is the domain. Now let's go here. We define fluid, and type, we define domain. This is going to be our domain. What type of domain? This is going to be a liquid domain, okay? That's it. Now we can create our cube that is going to be our fluid. Let's show wireframe. This is going to be our fluid. So this is okay. Okay. Let's apply the scale, and we are going to enable fluid, flow, liquid, and geometry. It's going to generate the volume as liquid. So we can disable this and we can test this. Let's save this Manta live, and let's configure the cache fluid. Sorry, the cache folder. So cache live and Manta. Okay, save, and then we can lower this resolution just because I want this to go fast, pretty fast. Let's show flip fluid particles, and let's bake data. This is going to bake just 50 frames, I think. Saul Loredo Spanish comment. The Sculpt Mode of Blender 2.80 is tremendously different from 2.79. No, you can go to Blender Chat. Saúl, puedes ir a Blender Chat y en el canal hoy puedes hablar en español, o si no en un directo en español. So you can go to Blender Chat and we can speak in Spanish in Blender Chat in the channel hoy. But for answering you, no, right now 2.80 and 2.79 are exactly the same. The difference comes with a different branch, with a Pablo Dobarro branch that is going to give you much better tools and much better result and much better performance and much better everything. My camera seems to be deactivated. Oh no. Oh, hate this. Wait a moment. Wait a minute, please. Well, if it deactivates again, I'm going to leave it that way. It's not so important. So, I'm back. And I have pretty strange effects. Oh, my camera is working so bad. Okay, let's continue. So we have this that is just the fluid created by Mantaflow. As you can see, nothing is happening because this is just a fluid. Let's simulate up to 100 frames. We just resume the simulation. We don't need to reset the simulation. And as you can see, Mantaflow right now is much faster than Flip Fluids, but it's not because the simulation is faster or not. It's just because we are simulating different parts of the result. So right now we are just simulating flip fluids, flip fluid particles. We are not simulating additional particles. The mesh, the diffusion is pretty simple right now. We are just simulating particles. So it's faster in that regard. So we can see here the fluid, okay, and we go to 100 frames. Okay, here we have our fluid particles. Now we can create an object to guide these particles. So for example, we go here, we are going to create a plane. I don't care about the plane right now because I'm going to replace it with an Ocean modifier. We go here to Ocean, and here we have our Ocean modifier. Okay, let's increase the resolution and let's decrease the size. Okay, let's put this here, and we want this to affect the actual fluid. So we are going to animate this. For example, time 1, I'm going to set a key. Frame 100, this is 4 seconds, so time 4, set a key, and now we have our animated ocean. Please in linear keys. Okay. Here we have our ocean, okay? Just 100, later we can try with 200 frames. Let me create the actual key just in case. T linear, and that's it. We have even 8 seconds of ocean. Okay, now we have this geometry. We are going to use this geometry to guide our ocean. So let's go. Let's bake the ocean for starters. Let's go here. Cast live ocean. Just because I want to have things baked. So bake ocean, it's fast. Okay, now we have our ocean baked. We go to effects, we enable fluid, effector, and instead of being a collision object, we are going to define this as a guide object. We're going to give a thickness of, okay, let's try with 0.5. Velocity factor, let's try to 2, and we are going to use averaged or average guiding mode. Let's go to the domain, and we are going to enable guiding. And this is pretty important because guiding has to be pre-calculated. So we cannot use we cannot calculate the fluid without pre-calculation, doing the pre-calc of the guiding system. So let's free the data. Let's enable guiding. As you can see, when we enable guiding, the simulation settings and the bake data button are disabled. So guiding, instead of a domain, we're going to use an effector or the effectors. Let's try this way. Just bake guiding. This is going to be more or less fast because the ocean is already baked, and we are using a low resolution for the fluid. So if you have questions, the baking times are the correct moment for the questions. The particles show now in velocity mode by default. Yeah, the particles show now in velocity mode. and you can reduce the number of particles in the viewport and nothing will crash. Okay, and we have the guide baked. Okay, we have the guide baked. I'm going to leave this here, but we can hide. We could hide this ocean now, but everything is correct. And now let's bake. Let's use the bake data. Where for download the branch, Mike Myers, you can go to graphical.org and you will be able to download the branch. So you have this one for Linux and you have this one for Windows. Okay, you can download whatever you want. And here you have some people are uploading also the Sculpt Mode. So you have here Sculpt Mode for Linux, and I'm not sure if there are more here. Function nodes, Sculpt Mode again here. So you have here all the builds you may need to do all this. Hello, Saf Martin. So let's pause the simulation and let's check how it goes. We can pause the simulation, we can hide this and rewind, and here we have. And as you can see, the fluid is starting to move and deform, right? But I think it needs to be to affect the fluid a bit more. So let's go back to the domain. Let's go to define, in the domain we have some options for guiding. Let's free this simulation, let's free this guiding, and we have also another velocity factor and another size. So let's increase the size to 10, the weight to 4, and the velocity factor to 4, and let's increase also the velocity factor in the guide. What is the difference between this velocity factor and the domain velocity factor? Well, this velocity factor is going to affect just this guide, and the domain velocity factor is going to affect any guide you have in the simulation. So right now I'm just increasing both of them and we'll test if it's better or not. So let's bake the guide again. Yeah, it's there, Saf Martin, but graphical.org is already redirected to that web. So you can use graphical.org. Okay, this is more or less fast. Let me try to do something so this don't shut down. And that's it. What kind of GPU do I need to work comfortably with Mantaflow? Well, Mantaflow is not a GPU simulator, and in fact any liquid simulator that you use with GPU is not going to be much faster because of the GPU. So it's more what kind of CPU you need to work with Mantaflow. And to answer that, because you can use a GTX 1080, an RTX 2080, an RTX 2060, 2070, a GTX 1070, whatever. It's not important, the GPU for Mantaflow. It's important for your general viewport performance in Blender, but not specifically for Mantaflow. So what type of CPU you need to work with Mantaflow? Well, you need a CPU that has a good amount of cores, but not too many. Like the one you are seeing here, it's the biggest Threadripper right now. It's 64 cores, and it's not leveraging all the 64 cores. So you may be good with just 16 threads, but with high power per thread. So in this case, an Intel CPU could be better, but it could be expensive also, more expensive. So maybe you're good with a Threadripper with a lower core count, but a much higher overclocking ability. So you need a good performance in a single thread task. So okay, the guide is baked. we are going to bake the simulation. Let's try just with 50 frames. Let's bake the data. I don't care. I don't like to. The camera is not correctly placed. I'm having a lot of problems with the camera and the microphone. Your CPU is antique. What CPU do you have? A Specs 357. By the way, I want to use this pause while this is simulating to remember you that we are in Instagram. We post here many of our works, of our projects, and in the stories you can see some, not always, but you can see some news that I usually publish. And you can follow us in Twitter too. It's at Bone Studio Anim. So it's both Instagram, Bone Studio Anim. San Martin, Bone Studio, audio, webcam are in sync, but when you move yourself quick, make banding. Yeah, I know. It's because the camera went off, and the banding problem is it's appearing when I start the camera. I don't know. It's a problem, a configuration problem. I cannot do. I can do nothing to solve this right now. So let's go 76%. Let's pause the simulation and check how it's going. And as you can see here, we have a much powerful deformation of the fluid. We can leave this simulation to end to 100 frames. Let's resume. Yeah, it's much better than the voice out of sync. Much better. So while this is simulating, we can try another thing in the Sculpt branch. So let's start the Sculpt branch. And let me show you what we are going to do with this simulation. What we are going to do is, it's pretty easy. We are going to import an Alembic file that we are going to export from the Mantaflow branch, because we have the remesher in the Sculpt branch and Mantaflow has its own branch without the OpenVDB remesher. So we are going to import one Alembic file I have here that is test Mantaflow. Okay, this is the old one. Okay, and we are going to mix this with an Ocean modifier. So let's do exactly the same thing. We go here, Ocean, resolution and size 0.3. So why do we want the guiding thing to mix this with the Ocean modifier? Because right now, as you can see, okay, the simulation is happening, but the Ocean is mixing with the geometry, so we are not going to have a very good result. In fact, we can see what result are we going to get. We need to apply a Solidify Modifier to the Ocean, because the OpenVDB remesher cannot see objects without volume. It's based on volume. So let's configure this to this one. It's okay. We can animate this for sure. Of course, we can go here, time 1, and we can go to frame 100, time 4, T linear, and 100. So we have our liquid. And now we can apply the remesher, voxel, here we have, and now we can add or Alembic file or fluid simulation as a union, we can hide cube, and here we have our fluid simulation mixed with the Ocean modifier. In fact, since we have 200 frames, we can go to the Ocean modifier 8, and you can see the remeshing being done in real time. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So another thing we can do to improve this is that we can chop parts of the original simulation, because we can go here. There is one thing that I have not solved yet, that is the borders of the fluid. This is the reason why we may need, okay, this is done, yeah, not bad. It's a bit, I don't know, it's a bit weak yet, but we are going to use this. So now we can go to mesh, enable mesh, and let's bake the mesh. So the borders are not solved, and this is the reason why we may need the Ocean modifier to modify our current simulation. So the mixing with the Ocean modifier is easier to do, and we have less border here. In fact, we still need another feature that I spoke with Sebas about it, that will allow the borders, the limits of the domain to be open, but to avoid the leaking of fluid. So we can simulate like a part of an ocean, and this way we will be able to mix the Ocean modifier with the Mantaflow simulation much easier, in a much easier way. So we have the geometry here. Let's hide the particles, and let's use, okay, I think we see the fluid better. We can see here how the fluid is behaving. It's pretty weak, but we may try. I'm not sure, because our fluid it's much stronger. We can try some things, but I still don't like the result. So we can try, I don't know, we can even try this. I don't like this. We still need more strength in the guiding. So let's hide this. Let's show this one, enable overlays. The name is the OpenVDB. Not exactly, we are using the OpenVDB all the time. It's inside the remesher. So let me do one thing. Okay, so we can go here. We are going to remove the mesh, free data. Let's try this to, I don't know, 20. I'm not sure. Let's increase this to 2, and let's try to 20. Let's see what happens. Oh my god, and I need this. Let me reduce this scale a bit. Delete bake. Scale 0.5. Choppiness a bit bigger. Okay, that's bigger scale. Okay, this is okay. Now align. 1:1. And more speed. We can increase the speed of the simulation just doing this. Let's go to scale this, and it's going to be double. Let's increase this a bit more, and let's move this a bit higher. Okay, now we can go to simulate. Remember, we have to bake the guiding first. What is OpenVDB exactly? OpenVDB, it's a library that exists since several years. It was developed several years ago, and it's the main library used in Houdini, and also it's been used in Modo, I think. Cinema 4D has an implementation also, and it's just a way of looking at volumes. So you can convert any object in a volume. It's volumetric information, not geometry information. It's volumetric information. Make any kind of operation inside this volume and reconvert this volume to geometry. So this way it's much faster and much more stable to do things like Boolean operations, because you are going to get a clean mesh with more or less geometry, but a clean mesh after every operation. And of course, since this is a volume, this supports geometry operations and Boolean operations. So this means that this is in this case, this is the type of cache that the smoke simulator in Blender is using right now in 2.79 and in 2.80. So the guiding is baked. No, it's not baked. Bake guiding. Okay, now it's baking. Please, I don't want this. Okay, it goes a bit faster. Sounds really awesome for physics. Yeah, it's designed for making cache, for interpreting volumes, and using it for any kind of operation. In fact, in the movie Next Gen, Tangent Animation developed another integration of the OpenVDB library to bake smoke and fire and explosion simulations in Houdini and transport this to Blender. And it's useful for many other things, like rigid bodies. It can make a much better mess out of a rigid body breaking situation, and many other things. It's pretty useful. And the fun fact is that OpenVDB already exists inside Blender. It is just not being used, but it's already inside Blender since, I think, Blender 2.78, sorry. Blender 2.78. I think so, I'm not sure. Okay, we have the fluid guide baked. We can hide this, we can hide our cube, and we can show our flip particles, and we can bake that. As you can see, using guiding is a bit more, it's taxing a bit more the performance, because we are just with a 32 divisions of resolution, and it's not slow, but it's not being fast either. So, well, it's harder for the machine. On GitHub with Flip Fluids, I saw it also has nodes. I didn't saw that. Can you post the link, please? Or post it in the comment section of the video, and I will check it later. It seems interesting. There was a request. Well, yes, there may be a lot of requests for using nodes for everything. And there we have the Everything Nodes initiative that is being more or less designed or starting to be developed by Jax Luke. I have high hopes in Everything Nodes. It's going to start with everything with node modifiers. That is going to be pretty cool, I'm sure. And after that, who knows, particles, physics, whatever. It's going to be great. 20%, let's pause the baking so we can see how it's affecting. And now I think I used too many force. It's not going to look well. So let's reduce the general factor. Let's use just 1, and let's reduce this to 10. Let's rebake the guiding again. Spring Blender Movie did not use fire or smoke or fluid simulations or hair and cloth. Does it mean that nothing changed here? No, it does not mean that. For starters, Spring does use smoke simulation, because many of the clouds you see in the horizon and over the characters, the alpha and the beta characters, are smoke simulation. So they used smoke simulation. They haven't used fluid simulations, I think. No, they haven't used fluid simulations, especially because right now in the master branch of Blender, we have LBeam, that is the very old fluid simulation system. And I think it makes no sense to use LBeam as of today. Hair particles got some improvements. They got some improvements, and they got a new shader for cycles, the principal hair shader, and it got some improvements to do braids. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly in English, but to do braids. So they got some improvements, not super improvements, but some improvements. And the cloud simulator got many improvements, but I think they are not being used in the Spring. But the cloud from 2.79b and 2.80 are pretty different. I'm sure about that. It has many improvements. I want to do a streaming about cloth because I never did cloth streaming, and cloth simulation in Blender is pretty powerful. So many things have changed, and you have to bear in mind that the work. The 4 and the dog, exactly. This is hair, and it's not just 4, it's long hair with simulation. So they did some things. But you have to keep in mind one thing. In Blender, the development pace is marked by the core developers in Blender. Maybe intersect the ocean with the torus cube object and then copy the ocean and unionize the intersection of the original ocean with the new ocean. Let me reread this. Intersect the ocean with the torus cube and copy the ocean and unionize the intersection of the original ocean. You mean without any, you mean to get the effect of the ocean over the simulation? I'm not sure why. I'm not sure what you mean. Well, what I was saying, okay, it's big guiding, for God's sake. Okay, what I was saying is that the Blender development pace is guided by the Blender core developers. So they decide what is implemented in master, what is not, and they make the biggest development work inside Blender, like the new dependency graph and many other things. But there are a bunch of developers outside of the core developers group that are making improvements day after day to many other things. So for example, Pablo Dobarro is doing the Sculpt branch. They are the team of there is also the team of Grease Pencil with Antonio as the main developer, Antonio Vázquez, I think. There is also the Fracture Modifier branch done by Martin Felke, Scorpion81, that is here in the chat. And there are many other improvements, and there are a lot of developers doing many things. Like, for example, right now, Stefan Berner is doing, let's start the bake. Stefan Berner is doing the implementation of adaptive rendering, adaptive rendering for cycles, and we also have a scramble distance and resolve. We also have another thing. What was it? Well, the Intel denoiser was implemented by Stefan Werner outside of the core developer group, and many other things. So Blender development is evolving in many ways, and you are not going to know all the news always from the main channels, because not everything is going to be implemented in master right now, because core developers need to tackle down 280 and to give us a pretty stable release, and after that they are going to implement many patches, so many new features and many improvements and many other things. That's why you don't know that there has been cloth improvements, or you may not know some improvements done for Spring and many other things. By the way, regarding smoke or fluid simulations, Mantaflow is the new fluid simulation system, and it's not going to be used just for liquid. Mantaflow is able to do liquid and is able to do smoke or gaseous simulation, like fire, smoke, and everything. So it makes no sense to improve the old smoke system or the LVM fluid simulator, because Mantaflow is going to replace all of that. So let's try 43%. 43%. Pause the simulation, please, Mantaflow. Okay, let's check what do we have here. No, we need to multiply. And I'm going to do this last try because this is boring. So let's multiply the effect of the plane. It was 20 by 20, so we can try with 40, for example. 40 is going to be too much? No, it's going to be okay. Let's bake it again. I wonder if everything nodes will also involve fluid simulation. In the future, I think so. In the future, the idea, I think, the idea behind everything nodes is to get what some people call blendini. The idea behind all the everything nodes initiative is to get a full node-based system where we can mix whatever we want with whatever we want. So in the future, it will probably involve fluids. Right now, no, it won't. We are speaking about 2 years from now or something, at least. So let's bake data. Update for Fracture Modifier Blender 2.81, 2.82. Well, Scorpion81 is here and he can answer this in the chat, but I'm going to give you the short answer, and the short answer is no. There is no date. There is going to be some parts. Okay. There's going to be some parts implemented possibly in 2.81. I'm not sure. Scorpion, please answer this. But for the full implementation, it's going to take a while, because there are a lot of changes under the hood for the Fracture Modifier. So for the time being, you are going to have to use the Fracture Modifier branch. So Scorpion, give me a blank file. Let's try this one. Let's open another build. So build Sculpt. While Mantaflow is baking. Okay. Let me union test. I'm copying it to the live folder. And let's open this scene. Union test. Well, it doesn't have animation. Let's hide everything. Okay, you have, I imagine that you mean that we have the simulation, but how do we mix? But this is without animation. So with actual fluid simulation. So how do we mix the actual ocean modifier with the fluid simulation is what I meant. We'll talk about this later. So does Fracture Modifier also make use of OpenVDB Scorpion? Does Fracture Modifier make use of OpenVDB? I think not yet. I think not yet. Magma, do you think that Flip Fluid add-on is too expensive? Not at all. Flip Fluid add-on is pretty good, and I don't think it's expensive. It has a lot of development behind it, and it's not easy to maintain and to develop simulation. Flip Fluid simulator. So I don't think it's expensive. They are improving the simulator day after day, and it's just $60 or so. So it's pretty cheap. If you go and check Real Flow, it's $1,000. So I don't think it's expensive at all. Of course, Real Flow is much more powerful, but anyways, I don't think it's expensive. Okay, here we have a much better representation. It does whatever it wants, but this is because the fluid is colliding with the domain, so it's creating additional waves that we don't have in our original ocean. But it's okay. So let's hide this and let's create the mesh. And for those of you that want to do the beach simulation, the shore simulation, this is the correct way to do it. You don't need some colliders animated to go up and down and generate the actual waves, and that you have an ocean simulator, water surface simulator here, and you can generate waves with it. So this is the correct way to simulate an actual shore with fluids. Do you plan to repeat this live in Spanish? Yes, don't worry, Sebos. I will repeat this in Spanish. It's just that it has been too long since I did an English streaming, so I wanted to stream this in English. So let's try this. Okay, not bad, but since the simulation is at pretty low resolution, we get this. We can try to increase the mesh resolution to 4. Let's try. And we can, well, we are going to bake the mesh, and after that we are going to bake this simulation and transport this to the Sculpt Modifier branch and apply the new remeasure. So we see what we get. I like the wet water settings. Yes, the wet water settings are pretty good in Flip Fluid Simulator. But here it's not hard. I will do another streaming regarding wet water, because right now we have motion blur and actual correct particles in Mantaflow. It's working already, so we can use this. Let's check. Okay, we can use this. Not bad. Let's bake this to Alembic. So export, Alembic, cast live, Manta live. Selected objects only, export Alembic. It's exporting. I don't know if I have another question forgotten. I think so. No, okay. So let's save this and let's save the scene as with a different name. Let's Manta bake it live, and let's remove the domain and this object and this effect. Okay, now we can go to the Sculpt branch. Let's close this one. And let's close this one too. And here we have the school branch. And let's open this in. So it's Manta Baker Live. Okay, and here in the scene we just have our OSEN, right? So let's load the Alembic file. Import Alembic Gas Live, Manta Live. And oh my god, I think it wasn't correctly baked. Let's try again. Import Alembic Manta Live. Import. Okay, here it is. Let's put this at 0. And let's try a frame where we see this as similar. Okay, now we can go here and we can expand our OSEN. For example, this, we have 3 by 3, well, 4, no, 3 by 3, it's okay. So let's move this. Let's show the wireframe. Let's move this more or less to the medium. We can set origin to geometry, and we can configure this to 0. No, not this, sorry. This one. Set origin, geometry to origin. Ah, since it's not baked. Okay, we can put this here. And we have the collision problem. It's something that we need to solve. But now, let me use this mode better. So we have both simulations. We can try to... it's more or less okay. So now we can go here, we can apply to the OSEN modifier, we can apply a Solidify Modifier. Let's give this 0.5 meters. Oh my god. No, we don't want this. 1 meter. It's worse. Oh, we have a lot of choppiness, so maybe this is a problem. Okay, we may need a different technique for this. What do you think, Scorpion? Let's try the remesh. It's voxel. And as you can see, if there is no volume, the voxelizer cannot work. Well, we can cheat here. We can go here and we can reduce the scale to 0.3 and then apply the Solidify to 1 meter. .5. No, this is not good. We could be able to export to another Alembic, but no. Let's do this that way. And that's it, just this. As I said at the beginning, there are many things that I have to improve in this workflow. I just wanted to show you that this is possible. So we go here with the Solidify, and now we go to remesh. We configure voxel. Here we have our animated OSEN. Okay, and now we go to CSG operands, union, and we pick this one. And we can see the actual fluid, but this is not too spectacular. It's a bit crappy. I think my first example was better. This is a bit crappy. But this is exactly why we need the open edges, the open sides for the domain, because other way we get these planar places. We can filter this a bit, for example with Gaussian. Well, this is a bit too much. We can erode this, or with Laplacian. Yeah, with Laplacian it's not bad, it's mixing things better, but we still have some walls here and there. So I'm not happy with this result, obviously. This is a bit crappy, but I'm more happy with this result. Clean master. This is a much better example, where you can see the ocean modifier and the actual fluid being remessed together. And this is the actual final mess. So not too happy. I'm not happy. I don't like the result. I had the voxel disappearing effect sometimes too. Voxels are too small. Yeah, Scorpion, the voxel disappearing effect was because the ocean modifier didn't have the volume, the Solidify modifier. This is why this is happening. You can bake ocean modifier as a texture sequence and applying the material for integrated the fluid same with the ocean. Yeah, that's a great idea, and that was one of my possible workflows to work around the problems with the integration, and I want to test that, but I have had no time to test that. I'm going to leave it here. I'm not happy with the result we achieved, but I hope you like the voxel, the OpenVDB remesser. For example, we have this one. I really like the remesser. We can apply the remesser again in voxel mode. And now I want to make a hole. So I want to remove my crappy fluid simulation. We go here, difference, and we get our cylinder, and that's it. And we can move the cylinder out of the way. And that's it. We can go to render mode, hide the cylinder, and we have our fluid cut. We can move the cylinder bit more, a bit more, and this, for example. And I think this is cool. We can increase this 0.5, 0.2. It's like jelly right now, right? And the camera turn off. So I'm not there. It doesn't matter. I'm going to finish this right now. So Gaussian. And meanwhile it's calculating. I need to start it again. What's happening here? I had this set up. You cannot see me. Oh my god. This is a mess. Okay, the camera is not working. So you are not going to see me. But this is the final result. I'm not happy with the result we had here, but I hope you liked the improvements done by Pablo Dobarro and Martin Felke in the Sculpt branch, and the improvements done by Sebas in Mantaflow. And I will see you again in another live streaming in English or in Spanish. If you liked this streaming, it has been a bit boring, so you may not want to press the thumbs up, but press the thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe to the channel, subscribe to our Instagram at Bone Studio Anim, subscribe to our Twitter, and follow us everywhere, and be happy. So good night everyone, bye.